Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home, everybody. If you're one of those people that just find yourself being so lonely around the holiday season because you're one of the very few people that actually enjoy watching scary and horrific movies during the holiday season and have nobody to talk to about those favorite movies that you have, well, buddy, this is a Christmas miracle because now you have somebody that'll listen to you discuss all your thoughts and feelings around your favorite scary holiday movies. So you're welcome, and please join us here. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Initiation, which came out in 1990. When an inspiring journalist investigates a woman's mysterious, fiery death, she's pulled into a bizarre occult conspiracy that twists her holiday season into a nightmarish initiation. So as we jump into the review and discussion for Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4 Initiation, we are obviously on the channel here covering the entire Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise, all the way up leading to our new, I don't even know if it's a reboot, sequel, reimagining, remake-wall, whatever the fuckle it is. We are going to be covering that new one. I am highly anticipating it. Really looking forward to checking that out in theaters. So I thought with the holiday season just approaching here and me being very new to this franchise, I've never seen any of these up until this review series. So I thought it'd be fun for all of us to kind of gather around the warm fireplace here and discuss this lovely franchise here. Without further ado, let's jump into the review section, starting with the positives or just the things that I enjoyed most about this movie. Now, I guess major spoilers for my thoughts here, but I cannot contain myself because I really found myself enjoying this one, and I'm not sure if it's just because I had such low expectations with a straight to VHS sequel for the franchise, but I really do think ZakIsCinema is here to tell all of you, I think this is an underrated gem here. And it really started off with my excitement around the inciting incident or the initial setup for this movie. I was very impressed with it, where we open up on this kind of dark city alley and we are following this homeless guy who's kind of picking through the trash a little bit and then looks up at this tall apartment building and sees this woman or overhears this woman screaming, almost kind of fighting with somebody, but we only ever see that one woman. And then she's at the edge of the building looking like she's trying to get away from somebody, but also might look like she is trying to jump for some reasons. You're trying to piece together what's going on, and then as soon as she leaps, you notice her entire bottom half of her body is engulfed in flames, and she smacks down on the pavement right in front of this homeless dude with half her body already charred from the fire. And then that's what leads us right into our opening credits here. So I thought it was just such a unique and interesting way to set up a movie. Like, even if the rest of the movie just fell on its face and was never as interesting, I'd still at least want to sit through the rest of the movie here to figure out what exactly was going on with this woman. And I think it's a perfect inciting incident because it raises so many questions. It makes you wonder if she was jumping off there to escape the evil that was chasing her, if she accidentally jumped off, or if she purposefully jumped off. So it raises a bunch of questions. It's a neat inciting incident that makes you want to finish the movie. So I was really impressed when I started watching this because I just was not anticipating such an intriguing opening. And again, I don't know if it was just my expectations from sitting through the god-awful Part 3 movie in this franchise, but it was so refreshing to actually have a main character here that you could get behind. We follow this main character named Kim, who I thought was a somewhat interesting character, really well acted, and even though it does feel a bit of a cliche at this point, she is basically, I guess, Peter Parker without his Spider-Man and powers, where she is trying to prove herself and earn her keep in this newsroom where she really wants to be an investigative journalist, but is kind of being pushed around by all the guys in there, just fetching the coffee, doing some printing, really basic stuff, but she really wants to be taken seriously in this journalistic role, and really finds herself captivated by this initial inciting incident when she sees this on the news about this unexplained woman jumping off from the building with half her body on fire. And she decides to make it a goal here. She really wants to cover this story, but her current boyfriend that works at the same newsroom is rewarded with that opportunity, but she still takes it upon herself to investigate this for her newspaper. So I thought that was really interesting. It kind of gives you some drama edge between Kim and her boyfriend, and how she's always kind of backed up against the wall but is never afraid to keep pushing and keep fighting for what she believes in. So again, a little bit cliche, but it's an easy kind of motivation to really get behind. So it was leaps and bounds. Honestly, probably one of the best characters we've gotten from this franchise. An easy one to get behind. And this whole movie, as we'll get into it, has a lot to do with cults and rituals, some really nasty, demonic, satanic kind of stuff going on. I think it sets up Kim well with her being just looked down upon and not taken seriously. And it sets that up well why a cult would almost kind of take advantage of this or be interested in her. She's constantly being undermined and being put down by people in her personal life and in her workplace, yet motivated to do her own thing and driven. So it would make sense for a cult to see that, give her an opportunity on what she's looking to accomplish, and really take her motivation for granted here, which is exactly what happens. So it's interesting how they kind of set up Kim as a character, but then also kind of make that her weakness, or I guess her vulnerability for the cult to kind of come in and start doing some cult shit. And I thought the movie did a good job at least playing off that mystery with the inciting incident. I don't think it's necessarily very well hidden on who exactly is involved, but the mystery is more so around why these people are doing what they're doing, how long have they been doing it, and what's their kind of main goal. So obviously with that inciting incident with the lady jumping off the building, you know something sinister is happening, but we slowly start getting suspects throughout the movie, where Kim has this coworker named Janice at her workplace who knew exactly where Kim was going to be one day, even though Kim never told her, and Kim was going to hang out with her cultish book club old ladies in the park. So as soon as they introduced that, I'm like, it looks like Janice might be involved. Who else could be involved? And then we get the introduction of FEMA, who owns the local bookstore, I believe at the bottom of that apartment building with the initial premise there. And she almost seems kind of obsessed with Kim and very interested in luring her into her inner circle, which I kept calling as a sinister kind of book club with old ladies here. So FEMA's trying to get Kim involved, and you're trying to see exactly when everything is going to show its face and be revealed here. So maybe the sinister characters aren't hidden so well, but I think the premise and motivation really set up an interesting mystery that I was excited to continue watching. I wouldn't consider this movie a scary movie, but I would say it's unsettling and creepy, especially with the great practical effects that we'll get into, and really crazy, out there, gross out moments, specifically with the bugs that they use in this movie, and how we can never really tell what kind of roaches or bugs Kim is imagining and what bugs are actually there, or if they're all fake, or if they're all there. They do some creepy things with just bugs infesting her apartment. They have bigger bugs, smaller bugs, bugs in food, bugs in the bathroom, her bedroom, and it almost just kind of gives you this icky, dirty feel consuming the entire screen. And I don't know about you, but I really don't like bugs, so maybe it worked a little bit better for me than it did for you, but I did enjoy that creepy, just gross out kind of feel this movie had going for it. Kind of jumping around the plot to this movie, but once the cult stuff is kind of revealed to us, and then we find out or have a scene with FEMA and her book club drugging Kim, and Kim wakes up where they're in the middle of this ritual, and they wake her up by making this creepy beetle-like slug enter through her stomach and crawl up her and then come out of her mouth as this like beetle slug looking thing, almost like a reverse kind of birthing process in a cult-like form that I thought was so creepy. And I guess the themes with bugs here, like I said, I don't like bugs, and it was kind of making me grossed out and upset with how just gross Kim, as she's losing her mind, keeps her apartment with all the bugs and never picks up after herself and just has bugs in the sink. At one point she's like spraying bug repellent on her dishes in the sink but never really rinses them off, which kind of freaked me out a little bit. I hope she really washed those or ran it through the dishwasher a couple of times. But there's parts where there's bugs, I think, in her toilet, and then her toilet clogs and is like overflowing, and as it's overflowing she is still drugged and in this trance and goes to fuck her boyfriend as the toilet's overflowing. So like the constant distress of her apartment was kind of making me uneasy. It kept getting more nasty and gross and more distressful, almost kind of giving us an inner look at Kim's mind, with it slowly kind of falling apart and just becoming a disaster, almost not worth saving. So I kind of like that representation of Kim's spiral into madness visualized through her apartment with all the bugs and nasty stuff going on. I also think with the practical effects, the cult stuff, the body horror this movie's got going on, I think it's easily the most graphic of the franchise and really goes like so over the top in the best way possible. And there's also some subtle, creepy, gross out things where the homeless guy from the beginning turns out to be a part of this ladies book club cult and ends up breaking into the apartment with Kim and her boyfriend and bites the Achilles tendon off of her boyfriend, which I thought was just such a gnarly scene that reminded me of that Pet Cemetery scene with the knife with the Achilles. But this seeing a homeless dude rip it off with his mouth was not what I was expecting at all. And we'll get into my issues, or just I think some things maybe push it a little bit too much, like with the sexual assault scene in the meat cooler, meat kitchen area we'll get into. But I really thought that scene and the implications and what it led to was really unsettling and way more amazing than I ever anticipated the part 4 of Silent Night, Deadly Night to be. As Kim is getting assaulted in this meat cooler kind of thing, the cult members say she is going to give birth to herself, which I thought was just such a unsettling line because you don't really know what that means or what it's going to kind of look like. And then we get this crazy ass scene with her almost birthing herself into this slug version that came out of her mouth just a couple scenes before in Fima's apartment. Some disgusting practical effects with her body kind of morphing into each other, with her hands just kind of locking into each other, with her feet kind of just forming and fusing within each other. I just thought it was so disturbing. The practical effects are really well done there, and it just goes so over the top, but like I said, in the best way possible. And on top of that, I really do love a good cult-like movie here, and I like how the cultist vibe of the movie kind of tied into the mystery. I feel like this is a well-done version of that and really kind of felt like a fever dream with a cult taking advantage of this woman and what this woman and Kim really wants with her life. It doesn't really have anything to do with the franchise, but I appreciate, unlike with part 3, that this one actually goes for an interesting, unique, and obviously very different version and vibe from the entire franchise. It's almost like we have a Halloween 3 Season of the Witch kind of issue here, where we'll get into it a little bit more, but I really enjoyed that because it's not what I was anticipating, but I thoroughly enjoyed this movie and thought it had so many amazing parts that I just really was not expected, and I feel like more people need to see this movie. But let's jump into my mixed aspects for the movie. And I don't know what it is with the Silent Night franchise here, having these satirical fourth wall break moments where this scene was a little bit unsettling, but we have Kim and her boyfriend as her toilet is overflowing and whole apartment is in distress. They're having sex on their bed, and then the homeless guy that's part of the cult comes into the room, starts watching TV, and is watching the opening scene from part 3 and laughing at it. So I don't know if it was a way to kind of make fun of part 3. The movie never does it again, just like when part 2 did the same thing in the movie theater scene. I just don't understand the point of this, and it doesn't even seem like they try to make a point with it. I'm just assuming it's part of the franchise's style and signature staple at this point. So that's why I kind of have it in my mix, because it makes no sense, but I guess it's kind of the style at this point. And jumping back to that crazy, creepy sexual assault scene, I think it is such a horrifying premise and utterly disgusting when Kim is in that meat locker here and dragged into the meat room and then sexually assaulted by the homeless guy, where the whole cult lady book club people are looking on, and he's wearing this like Pinocchio mask with a long nose, which at first I thought he was going to use the nose to, do what you think I'm implying there. He doesn't. He just, I think, likes to wear the long nose for some reason, and I just felt like maybe they could have cut away from that, like implied it a little bit more instead of showing it. That scene kind of took me out of it a little bit, where I felt like they were just going for, fuck it, shock value for shock value. This isn't being released to theaters. We'll do whatever we want sort of thing. So I like the creepy ass implications and how ruthless this movie is. I just feel like it didn't need to necessarily show it, if that makes sense. And like I was just touching on in my positives, I do think this has a Halloween 3 problem, where it should not have been a Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. I think if it had a different title, we'd be talking about this movie much more differently, and I think it would gain more of a cult following. But I think when you throw it the fourth in a franchise where people didn't really like the other two and really only kind of enjoy the first one, I feel like a lot of people just glossed over this one, which isn't really the movie's fault, more of the people who made the movie. They probably just had some spec script that needed a budget and attached it to the franchise sort of thing. But despite that, I do think it is a positive, because once you can get past that this has nothing to do with the franchise, it's just a really, really great, creepy horror movie that centers around the holiday experience, where I wish that was a little bit more prevalent. But if you're looking for an excuse to watch a horror movie at Christmas, throw this on. People are celebrating Christmas. I think it counts. But yeah, let's jump into the negatives, or the things that I just didn't really like about this movie. Now, honestly, I'm happy to say that I'm very positive on this movie. I think more people need to see this. And my negatives are really mostly nitpicks, things that didn't derail the movie for me, just some things that stood out to me, if that makes sense. Unfortunately, one of my bigger negatives is with the character of Hank, which is Kim's boyfriend. They kind of have this on-again, off-again relationship, but you never really buy it in the beginning to believe in or get behind that. Anytime they're together, it just kind of feels like a waste of time, and I'd rather just be following Kim. Hank is pretty insensitive and annoying and just kind of dumb. You never feel the connection between them, so I wish they kind of trimmed that down or portrayed that a little bit differently. I know they build up Kim as someone who really wants to be a reporter and who is a very smart character, but she's inexperienced in the reporter role. I think sometimes the movie made her look a little dumber than she actually was. Like, she misses kind of obvious signs, like not really questioning FEMA all that much, just being very, very trusting of her, especially after FEMA gives her this cult book in the beginning. And one of the first pages Kim reads is about a woman whose half her body is on fire, which she's investigating the crime that just took place with a woman burning from half her body, but never questions FEMA until she wakes up and sees her being drugged and in a cult scene. That's the only time she starts questioning FEMA. This cult book FEMA gives her has all these cult-like spirals and symbols in it. And when we get another scene with Kim on the roof of the building from the initial inciting incident, you see she's standing in all these spirals on the roof, and she never addresses it or questions it at all. So I think they make her a little bit more trusting of the woman book club cult members, and I get that's kind of the point in messages here, and the cult kind of taking advantage of her just trusting nature with these group of women, but I think they went a little too far and made her look kind of stupid in some areas. And another minor nitpick, I think some of the men metaphors and discussions around men are a little on the nose. I'm not the type of person that has an issue with themes and messages, obviously, in movies. I just appreciate it a little bit more when it's not so on the nose and beating you over the head with it. There's constant discussion with this cult-like book club, a feminist book club, about how bad men are, and the constant parasite allegories and getting rid of the parasites and the beetles coming out of Kim's mouth was a little on the nose. And then at the very end, when the cult has Kim bring Hank, her boyfriend's brother, and brings him to the top of the roof to sacrifice him, one of the FEMA's henchmen say, "Kill the man, become a whole woman." And it's just a little like on the nose, especially at the end when the writing kind of drops off a little bit. So I thought it was pretty apparent what they were kind of saying in the messages here. I just wish they did it a little bit more subtly. And unfortunately, I think my biggest issue with the movie is the third act, when it kind of starts falling apart a little bit, even though I still was really, really enjoying this movie. I just don't think they knew how to write it, and I think that's when you get a lot of the beating you over the head with its messages too. Afterwards, when Kim gets out of that meat locker after the crazy-ass birthing scene, she goes to the bookstore, and FEMA and her book cult members are right there, and FEMA just basically word vomits to Kim and the audience and tells us the entire mystery of the girl that jumped off the roof in the very beginning scene, how that was actually FEMA's daughter, and she was trying to get her daughter back, and her daughter didn't want anything to be a part of this, so now she's going after Kim to try and reincarnate her daughter, to have her daughter in her life again. So it was just like, oh, it kind of let all the air out all at once in one scene, and it just kind of felt like the movie lost its creepy edge and went a little bit over the top. So again, once that reveal of what's actually going on, I felt like we didn't need the explanation. A lot of it more could have been implied with some dialogue or visualization. So that was a little frustrating. It was a little frustrating how it eventually wraps up. Felt a little slightly rushed, and that there was a lot more on the table that could have been explained or advanced in some ways. But I felt like after the initiation scene, the writers knew what they wanted to get to, just didn't know how to exactly make that the smoothest transition. I would say overall, guys, this is an underrated gem. If you have not seen this movie, check it out. It is pretty insane. It's pretty graphic, over the top, but I appreciate how it just kind of takes itself pretty serious and really, really goes for it. I think it's a fun, wacky, wild experience of a movie that I feel like is not appreciated enough. So for my rating for this movie, I would say this is a movie I would look to own on physical media to add to my beautiful collection here. I'd look more at a discounted price unless I could get some cool like box set or limited edition steelbook or something. I think I'd be okay paying full price because I'd love to show this movie to people. I've never heard anybody talk about this movie, but ZakIsCinema is giving you a stamp of approval. Check this movie out. I think a lot more people need to see it. That's about it. You guys have my thoughts on the fourth Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. Please, down below, let me know if you saw this movie when it first came out. Have you checked it out? What are your thoughts and feelings on this? Based off my review, is this something you're going to check out? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts and feelings on this movie down below. But that's about it. I appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.